Someone asked me to record it for them. All right, we're good now. Okay, so we know that an argument has a conclusion. What about, is there more stimuluses or more questions on the logical reasoning section that are arguments or that are statements?
Arguments.
Arguments, yes. About 90% of questions are arguments. So more times than not, it's going to be an argument, which means we're going to have our premises and we're going to have a conclusion. Once again, really focus on that. If it has a conclusion, that means it's an argument. What different kinds of premises are there on the LSAT? Okay, everyone go ahead and think about this for 30 seconds. Because there's different types. I'll give everybody the first one. Background information. We can use background information to try to support our conclusion. Take 30 seconds to think of the other ones. And the reason that this is important is no, some of these terms are not going to be asked in a question, but whenever we're trying to find flaws or we're trying to find the main conclusion or we're trying to strengthen it, if we can put these premises into these buckets, it helps us narrow down what the conclusion really is. And we can kind of see the structure of an argument, or whenever we get to those reasoning or role questions, it helps us see, oh, what does this statement do in order to help or hurt our conclusion? All right, Katie, do you have one?
Yes, I said introducing an opposing viewpoint.
Okay, so what I call that is opinion of others.
Okay.
And so that's very broad. That could be like an opposing study, or some people think this, or actually an opposing opinion, but it's just saying like, hey, this is what is out there. Some studies say this, or most people think this, or Dr. Doolittle says this. It's just stating an opinion of others. We're not trying to oftentimes misprove, oh, they didn't really say that, or they don't think that. We just accept what they think or they say as, hey, that's what happened. Angelica, do you have a different one?
Could it be like a study or like?
Yeah, an example. We use examples all the time to support our arguments. Which study would fall into that? What other kind of premises do we have? I'll say in the background information, this is just where general facts go as well. Dun, dun, dun. What?
You wouldn't say surveys, would you?
Surveys would go into example.
Okay, yeah.
Use like a survey as an example or as proof, evidence, yeah.
I was gonna say like a secondary.
Yep, a subsidiary conclusion. We'll talk about that in 1 second. I have this written on the next slide that you can screenshot, but I don't want to give it away. What is the net? What is the one that we're forgetting that oftentimes people think are the conclusion, but they're not? Starts with a P.
Principle.
Principle, yeah, what's a principle?
Is it like a very general statement that guides that the conclusion kind of succumbs to, but it's not making a specific argument?
Correct. I want everybody to think of a principle right now and what conclusion you might try to draw from using that principle. So everybody think of their own. All right. Katie, do you have one?
Yes, so for my overall principle, I said that honesty is always the best policy. And then for my conclusion, I said you should tell your teacher you didn't do your homework.
Yeah, excellent. So do we see there how we don't say a principle, and Katie's not trying to prove that honesty is the best policy. She's using that principle to support her conclusion that, hey, you should tell your teacher that you didn't do your homework. Oftentimes people select principles on the LSAT as the main conclusion. So they're like, oh yeah, but it's this broader purpose, or it's this broader generalization. But we're using that broader generalization to apply to this specific situation. Jomi, what was your principle in conclusion? Did you come up with one?
I was thinking something like a general principle, like the sun rises in the east.
The sun rises in the east, therefore, that's a principle. So the sun, let's think of what conclusion could come from that. The sun rises in the east, therefore,
Therefore, your shadow would be always towards the west.
Maybe. Sorry, I was gonna say, therefore, if we want to watch the sunset or sunrise as we drive, we should head east.
Yeah, but again, I'm confused. That kind of looks like that might actually go into facts. So I'm not 100% sure if
I would say the sunrise. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
Let's clarify. Some of these sometimes can overlap. Like an example, like sometimes an example, yeah, that's background information too, or a principle can kind of be an example. Like these are not necessarily like hard and fast, clear-cut black and white differentiations, but having a couple different buckets we can put statements in helps organize the structure of the paragraph.
Okay.
And Trish, do you have one?
I think. I always tell my daughter, I'd rather you tell me the truth than lie to me and have me find out later.
Okay.
Therefore, tell me the truth. I mean, I guess it's similar to Katie's, but.
But what would be it's better to tell the truth than find out later. So what would be your conclusion?
It's better for her to tell me the truth, and like in regards to something, if I'm asking her a question about something she's done.
Right. Oh no, I
understand
the principle.
Might get in trouble for her.
So what is the conclusion that you would draw from it? I always tell you that you should, so like your principle is you should tell me the truth instead of me finding out later. Therefore, since I found out later, you're going to be in big trouble. Your conclusion then would be you're in big trouble based on that principle because I found out later. Like what does that principle look like in action?
Okay.
And it can go differently. That's why it's a generalization, because that principle can look differently in action depending on the situation, right?
Right.
So if I said it's wrong to tell a lie, I could say, I don't trust Katie because she told a lie. And it's wrong to tell a lie. My principle, I'm not trying to prove to you that it's wrong to tell a lie. I'm trying to prove to you that Katie's a bad person. But I'm using the principle that it's wrong to tell a lie to justify why Katie's a bad person.
Okay.
Don't you feel like we're going back to like 8th grade English? I mean that in the kindest way.
I don't think I learned this in 8th grade.
I'm probably like, I remember when I forget what I was studying. Oh, when I was studying for the LSAT, I was like tutoring younger students, and I went online and I watched these like YouTube videos on like what's an adverb, what's a verb, what's a noun, because I couldn't remember some of them, which sounds silly, but I needed to get better at it. Oh, here are my notes that are more nicely written. So there's 2 here that we haven't talked about yet. That can be parts of an argument. What is a concession? If you know, go ahead and think of an example.
Why did you write them in a specific order?
Because I'm
did you not?
saying it in that order, so I don't forget them.
Because what you remember? Okay, that's fine. It's
just like, yeah, there's no reason. I would say these
Okay,
are more, these I would keep in order because they're more in support typically. Where a concession and subsidiary conclusion are just a little bit different, and that's what we're going to talk about now.
okay.
All right, Angelica, what's a concession?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember it.
Jomi, do you know?
Yes, a concession is like we are conceding part of the opposing argument. Like,
Ah,
let's say I have a car, given that I drive fast, but still I did not get a speeding ticket. So that
yeah,
driving
no,
fast,
concession is when you grant the other side. So
yeah.
like when you say, I know this isn't a popular opinion, however, it's going to save the most lives.
Oh, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Or I
perfect.
know ice cream is high in fat, however, it tastes really good.
Mhm.
It's whenever we grant the other side. We do this in arguments a lot too.
So is it like acknowledging?
Yeah, acknowledging the other side, or it's kind of acknowledging maybe a downside in our argument. If we get lucky enough on a strengthen or weaken question, the answer choice will either strengthen or weaken the concession. Like it'll expose it even more. It's not always the case, but it's one thing to look for.
Okay.
All right, and then lastly, what's a subsidiary conclusion?
It's like a conclusion that supports the main conclusion.
Yes, I want everybody to think of a premise, and then I want them to come up with their own subsidiary conclusion, and then I want you all to come up with your own main conclusion. You could have more than one premise to get to your subsidiary, or like, I don't care how many, like just general premises you have. But I want everyone to see what this looks like in their own words. All right, who has an example?
I might have one.
Are you going for it?
Wait, did Angelica want to go for it first, or did she say she didn't?
I thought you had one.
Oh yeah. I was saying that I think I have an example. I was gonna say, the dog rolled around in mud. The dog is dirty. We should wash the dog. No, the dog is dirty. The dog needs a shower. We should wash the dog.
Yeah, excellent. Katie?
I have the Oreos are expired. Expired food is bad. You should not eat the expired Oreos.
Okay, so you use two premises and just come to one conclusion.
But okay.
Here's how you would do it. You would, I think maybe you said this and I just missed it. You would say the Oreos are expired. Expired food is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Any food that's past date, or the Oreos, like so your premise is the Oreos are expired. Your premise is expired food is bad. So your subsidiary conclusion would be the Oreos are bad. If you added in the premise that you should not eat bad food, your main conclusion should be like, we should not eat the Oreos.
Right.
Is that what you said?
My like main conclusion was you should not eat the expired Oreos, but I didn't add. I think I needed one more premise to like loop it because I
Yes.
think I was trying to say my subsidiary conclusion was the Oreos are expired. So my premise was the Oreos. Oh wait. Yeah, my premise was the Oreos expiration date is passed. My subsidiary conclusion was the Oreos are expired. And then my main conclusion was you should not eat the expired Oreos. But I think I needed one more premise
Yeah.
to get.
Because like
Yeah.
the Oreos being expired is not a conclusion. Right? Can you say like Oreos are expired food is bad. Therefore the Oreos are bad. It sounds really stupid, but you have to connect why that first
Okay.
in LSAT land. Because you're assuming that you should eat something that's expired, right? Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does.
Okay. You were on the right track. But I'm only correcting Katie not because it's a bad example, but it shows how silly sometimes, like why, like when we're trying to debate between if the subsidiary conclusion or the main conclusion is the main conclusion, which one is being used to support the other? More
Right.
an example, it would be hard to show which one was being used to support the other if you don't add in. We're trying to get to the point that we shouldn't eat. Not are we trying to get to the point that the Oreos are bad, or are we trying to get to the point that we shouldn't eat the Oreos?
Gotcha. Okay.
They're bad, therefore we shouldn't eat them, right? That's why we care that they're bad. Awesome. Okay, so a quick review for I think a lot of you have seen this chart before, but Trish, have you seen it?
I've seen it, but it wasn't in the first couple reviews that I started with. I forget where this one comes from. I want to say
So
Power Score.
these are the different type of question types I believe that there are. Katie, really pay attention to these. These are the ones that you get to be, especially predict your answers. I divide the LSAT questions into two groups, either bottom up or top down. So in a bottom up question, we have our stimuluses. And Angelica, pay attention to this because you asked me a question yesterday, like, wait, just remind me, what do we do for weekend questions? So pay attention to this one. So on bottom up, we have our stimuluses, we have our question stem, and then we have our answer choices, right?
Mhm.
On bottom up, that means we get to bring in new information. So whenever we struggle with why do we get to bring in, like, why can I think outside the box in this situation, but I can't here? This is why. And also for these answer choices. Trish, what was your question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, so in your question stem, will this question stem say what, like, will it refer to the paragraph that's up above, correct? It'll say blah, 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 to the paragraph above?
It will say which of the following either like strengthens the the argument above, or it oftentimes has the word if in it. Like if true or if valid. Okay. So the following, if true or if valid. So we get to bring in new information. And for these question types, do we tend to want strong or mild answers?
Strong.
Strong. Why?
Yeah,
why do we want strong answer choices in strengthen questions, Angelica?
Because you want to make it stronger, the argument. Like you want
to strengthen the argument as much as possible. You want all people to like ice cream, therefore we will get ice cream. Mm-hmm. Katie, why do we actually ask Trish, why do we weaken? Why do we want strong answer choices and weaken questions?
I guess because that helps to weaken it if you have something strong.
Yeah, no people like ice cream. If we say no people like ice cream, therefore we shouldn't get, or no, the conclusion was it's hot outside, therefore we should get ice cream. If we said no people like ice cream, that's way stronger, or weakens our argument more than if I said all people like ice cream. That does nothing. All right.
Right.
Paradox questions, Katie. Why would we want strong language and paradox?
Well, because our goal is to resolve the paradox, and so we have to figure out a way to make it make sense, and so stronger is better.
Yeah, and I think in stronger and evaluate, where stronger comes in is like being specific. Like we want to know specifics more so. Like we don't want general broad answers typically. We want to know like what, because like if we got this answer, if we said this, what solution would it offer specifically?
I have a question for these questions.
Yes.
So, are we looking for the strengthen more at the like premises of the argument, or do we look through? I know we always look at the argument through the eyes of the conclusion, but should we focus on like destroying the premise or like destroying the conclusion?
For weaken?
Like for I guess weaken, or like for strengthen.
Well, if you can strengthen the, like, so for example, if you strengthen a premise by, and in turn that strengthens the conclusion, it works, right?
Yes.
And vice versa. So ultimately the goal is to strengthen the conclusion or weaken the conclusion. But sometimes we do that by strengthening or weakening the premises. Like if we destroy a premise, if it's the only support given, of course we're going to weaken that conclusion.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, sufficient assumption. Why do we want strong answer choices?
We want to force the conclusion.
Yeah, sufficient assumption. The whole goal here is guaranteeing the conclusion. So we need to get there. And the only way we can get there, like, so we want to say like, so if I said it's hot outside, therefore we should get ice cream. My sufficient assumption is whenever it's hot outside, we must get ice cream. That's super strong. But since it's super strong, it guarantees our conclusion. Cool. Is this too much of a review for some of you? Okay, good. I hope I don't want to bore you. All right, top down.
I just want to add one more point over there. So I used to Ellen cast this loophole, and she has a similar list. And to add to the strong answers, she has the counter type of questions too up there.
The what?
A question called a counter. Like what's the strongest counter which somebody can give to an argument?
Strongest
Counter.
Oh, counter. Oh, that's a weakening question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She had that separately. So I was thinking I had seen this somewhere, but looking at my notes, it's from the loophole, and she has.
Yeah, I simplify it a little bit more than Ellen Cassidy, but yeah, that would just fall into weakening questions.
Okay, perfect. Then
we go over weakening questions. We'll, especially in the course, we'll go over more like different question stems for question types.
Okay.
Yes. All right, and then top down questions. We have our stimulus, we have our question, we have our answer choices. This is whenever we are using whatever is in the stimulus and we have to find it in our answer choice. So this is the one where we have to stay between the lines. So do we want more mild or strong answers here? Mild, yes. So it can be equal to the stimulus in strength or mild. It can't be stronger. Should draw like a equal in strength. My hand and my muscles. For strength. Bad drawing.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Okay. And this is where the conclusion questions fall. And that's what we just did. We worked on some conclusion questions because we're finding the conclusion. And then we're finding which answer's choice best represents whatever this author's conclusion was. We do not get to apply the conclusion. So many of us find the conclusion, we know the conclusion, and then when we read our answer choices, we don't just select what the conclusion is. We decide to just add our own information, be like, yeah, but this is what this is what they mean by the conclusion, or this is how you would use that conclusion. We're not trying to turn the conclusion into a principle, right? Even though your answer choice might make sense or it might be true, it is not what the author's conclusion is. Fair?
Mhm.
Someone just messaged me, AKA me with number 2. Is that what you did?
Yep. Sure did.
So I'm preaching to Katie right now. I get an amen. I'm just kidding. Okay. So the first question, everyone got correct, which is awesome. This was a pretty easy question, but just to review a couple of things here that we can learn. 1, always, always, always read the stimulus first. Okay. So, and also, what does some mean?
At least one.
At least one. Yeah. So at least one. Jomi, I will say this so many times. Every time I see the word some, it means at least one. It is a weak word or mild. So at least one person believes that advertising is socially pernicious. It changes consumers' preferences, thereby manipulating people into wanting things they would not otherwise want. So we're saying that there's at least this one person out there that thinks advertising is bad because you're convincing people that they want things that they wouldn't normally want. However, classes in music and art appreciation change people's preferences for various forms of art and music. And there is nothing wrong with these classes, therefore. So we have this word therefore. So before even reading the question type, what do we know that our answer choice is going to be asking us for?
Conclusion.
A conclusion, yes. What if this said, sometimes we'll see a fill in the blank question and it will say something, it will have a comma, and then it will have the word since.
So premise and then conclusion after that.
No,
Since premise.
It's, yeah.
I'm sorry, what? What would our answer choice be looking for here in this option number 2?
Premise.
Premise, yes. Sorry, I think you were saying it, Trish. I was drawing and listening at the same time. Yes.
That's okay.
So here we're looking for a conclusion. But if it would be switched and we have the word since, I don't have an example here, but if you do get this question on the test coming up, know that it's not what you think is just logical. This since will guarantee whatever you need. It's almost like a sufficient assumption question. What premise do we need for the conclusion that they just said to be true? So if they said you only buy green cows, we bought all the cows. Or if the thing said all the cows are green, or sorry, if the premise was we only buy green cows, period. We bought all the cows, comma, since, how would we fill in that?
There aren't any left to buy? Any green cows left to buy?
Since the cows were green.
Oh, since the cows are green.
I know it sounds really simple, but do you see how that, since all the cows were green, how that, even though it's a repeat, you're guaranteeing your conclusion by adding that premise in. So that's how this question, if you see this come up, the difference between these two. First, I've seen a lot of people struggle with this lately, where they're trying to fill this with almost like what must be true. It's not a must be true question. You're trying to find a premise that would guarantee the conclusion. FYI, I don't mean to go on a tangent about that, but that's the difference between these two. So back to our question where we have therefore, we're looking for a conclusion. Did anybody predict what this conclusion would be? Katie?
I predicted since some form of preference changing is not bad, therefore advertising can't always be bad.
Excellent. Did everybody feel good about predicting this one?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So then what was our answer choice?
See.
Did anybody struggle with any other answers? No? Cool. All right. Next one. For consumers, the most. What does most mean on the LSAT?
More than half.
More than 50%. Excellent. So for consumers, more than 50% enjoy emotional experience garnered from shopping is feeling lucky. So for most people, or for consumers, the most enjoyable experience we can have is feeling lucky when we go shopping. We want those deals, apparently. Retailers use this fact to their advantage. So when it says this fact, what is it referring to?
Most feel lucky.
Yes, this is how consumers feel. Excellent. But we were contradicting, but too often they resort to using advertised price cuts to promote their wares.
Isn't this just acknowledging?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to see if there was a concession here so I could point one out, to be honest. I was looking at would I consider either of these a concession? I almost would say retailers use this to advantage. It's not a great example of a concession, but I almost want to say that this is a concession because they're saying, hey, like they use this fact to their advantage, but too often they do this. So do you see how retailers use this fact to their advantage can be considered a concession? We're granting that, hey, retailers do use this to their advantage, but then we come in and say why it's not the end all be all. Cool. Promotions of this sort might make bargain-minded consumers feel lucky, but they can cut into profit margins and undermine customer loyalty. So is this an argument or a set of facts?
Argument.
How do we know?
It says argument.
It says argument. There you go. And yes, and because it has an argument. So what is our conclusion? What sentence would we highlight?
I put the last sentence.
What do other people think?
I chose the too often they resort to using advertised price cuts to promote wares.
All right, who's on team Katie and who's on team Angelica? Joe?
I'm not even on team Katie, so.
Joe, what team are you on?
I'm D.
Oh, not the answer. What sentence would you highlight as your conclusion? So Angelica is blue, Katie is green. Which one do you think is the main conclusion?
Blue.
Really? No, it's green. Team Katie. We all should have been on team Katie. So this is an example where even though you got the right answer, you didn't get the correct answer knowing everything you possibly could about this question. Because what is this sentence doing?
Background info.
It's offering support of why they too often use this. So, but too often which they is referring to retailers. So too often retailers resort to using advertised price cuts to promote their wares. But and I read that and I'm like, why? How do we know that they too often use this? Like, why is that a problem? We could say retailers resort to using advertised price cuts to promote their wares too often because promotions of this sort might make bargain-minded consumers feel lucky, but they cut into profit margins and undermine customer loyalty. So this is why they do it too often. This is why it's a problem. Do we all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Katie's face looks like I got it right, but I don't know why I got it right.
Wait, well, I'm just confused because I felt confident that was the conclusion, but I'm just confused at then how I'm just mad because if I got the conclusion right, but then I still got the answer wrong, then that just stinks. And so now I'm trying to understand why.
Yeah, what answer did you say?
I chose C because I thought that explained the conclusion.
Overused as a means of gaining retail sales.
Not in there.
There's no retail sales in the question, so that's why I eliminated C.
But isn't retailers?
Yeah, wait, hold on.
high
Hold
retail
on. Let me think.
sales?
Oh, it's not the problem. Okay, Katie, you just didn't stay between the lines. Because you said it says advertised price cuts are overused as a means of gaining retail sales. The issue isn't that it doesn't help us gain sales. The issue is it doesn't help us get profit. There's a difference between, like, if I could increase my sales and offer all my classes for $1 and my profit margin can go down, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where this D is saying using advertised price cuts to promote retail products reduces profit margins and undermines customer loyalty, which I can totally see how, it's funny that the two that are those that got the question right missed the conclusion, and those that person that got it right picked the wrong answer, ironically. But that just shows that we all have something to learn from this question, right? Because we might have got lucky on getting this question right this time, but what if we needed to know this? What if we needed to know the differentiation to get this one right? Katie, do you see how, and you probably just weren't paying attention to the detail between retail sales and profit. You probably assumed these were the same thing and just weren't being quite critical enough.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was stuck between C and D, but I guess I just, yeah.
You
I
have
think because I was trying to pick which one I thought stayed more in the lines, and I thought D, when it said reduces, I compared that to promotions of this sort might. So I was like, okay, this is saying that it definitely reduces. Never mind. It's, yeah, I see it.
So Nicole, adding on to Katie's point, like if the answer C was just advertised price cuts are overused, period, would that be a right answer?
Yes, excellent. I love how you changed that to the correct answer. Because that's just we're not saying why they're overused, we're just saying that they are overused.
Okay. So then that makes it the correct answer, right?
D?
So, no, C, when you just say advertised price cuts are overused, that makes it the correct answer, doesn't it?
By Angelica, she had to go to class.
Wait, no, now I definitely don't see why C is too strong, because I think that gaining retail sales pairs with promoting their wares.
No, but why? You're not looking at the why. They are promoting their wares, but the issue isn't that they're promoting their wares. What's the issue with promoting their wares? It tells us in that next sentence. Oh. Sorry. It says promote, like why? Too often they report to these promotions. Promotions of this sort make bargain-minded customers feel lucky, but they cut into profit margins and undermine customer loyalty. So it tells us the reason that they too often resort to these is because this is the problem with it. It's not the amount of sales they get. Like, what if they increase sales? So what if Kohl's has 90% off? Yeah, they're going to increase sales, but if they don't make any money on anything, does it matter?
Right. Okay. So
But they make you feel lucky, right?
Right. Yeah. You're being ironic, right? Or are you being serious, Jomi?
No, I'm also confused. Like I thought I had this right, but
the problem is not. Okay, do we all agree? The problem is not increasing sales. The problem is increasing sales so much that we no longer make money. If we put everything just on sale 90% forever and we are just charging people the cost it makes to bake it and we never make money, is that a problem?
yeah, that's definitely a problem, but that's not covered in the argument, right? So in this argument,
I'm saying why Katie's answer is wrong.
oh, okay.
You were right. You were like she's trying to say that advertised price cuts are overused as a mean of gaining retail sales. Advertised price, the problem is not that we're gaining retail sales. The problem is what you selected, that it reduces profit margin and undermines customer loyalty. This is why it is. We don't want to, they're overused.
So again, like on the same thought, advertised price cuts are overused as a means of feeling lucky is the right answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What do you think, Katie?
Wait, what's the right answer?
D. D is in dog.
D?
No, D.
D is in dog, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. I heard the word lucky and I was like, wait.
No,
I think
he changed the answer to make it right, and he was just correct in how he changed it.
I think
Okay.
I assumed that in including are overused as a means of gaining retail sales. I think I thought that that was correct because in my brain, it automatically included it gains retail sales, but there's other consequences.
Right. No,
Where
I know
adding
it did.
something more to it.
You just weren't critical enough. But if you're narrowing down between these two, you have to ask yourself which one is more direct from the actual
Right.
stimulus.
Okay, because I thought that C automatically included D, but if it's not included, then I can't assume that. Then I have to go with the one that's more included.
Yeah, you have to stay between the lines.
Okay, cool.
All right, last question. So I can probably offer a class later tonight or tomorrow to go over like the rest of this stuff, like conditional statements and rule questions and must be true and most strongly supported, FYI, since we won't get to it. I'll let you know if anybody's interested in that. If you're not interested, I don't have to, but if you would be interested in like continuing on this kind of level of detail. And it'll be those other questions like are in that homework sheet, part and part.
Will you go over this in the boot camp as well?
Probably not to this level of deep, depending on who signs up and if they've had this class before. I do think that like the must be true and most strongly supported, we definitely will cover again. And I mean, actually, yeah, conditional statements will cover, must be true and most strongly supported we're going to cover. Yeah, so you're probably good, but I also would, yeah, yeah. Okay. So 20 real quick. Jomi, what does sum mean?
One.
At least
or
one.
more.
Yeah, excellent. If that's your one tip for today for answer choices, that's a good one. So at least one person has suggested that the problem of global warming should be addressed by pumping at least a little bit, at least some of the carbon dioxide produced by the burning of fossil fuels into the deep ocean. What part of the argument is this? Or how could we label this sentence?
It's kind of just information leading up. Yeah.
Yep, information. What kind though? What would we like? What kind on those premises we said? What kind of premises are there? It's not background information. It's the next one. Some people have suggested
opinion of others.
Opinion of others.
Opinion of others.
Yes, opinion of others. All right. Many environmentalists worry that this strategy would simply exchange one form of pollution for an equally destructive form. All right. What does
so many is it? What's the strength of many?
Many means many things.
Right. So it's stronger than some.
Yes, but
close to many.
No, it's closer to some in strength. Okay, real quick on this. So if some is used on its own, or some always means at least one.
Right.
If many is used without a word like some, it also means at least one. However, if they are used together, many does mean a little bit stronger than some. But it's not like most is significantly stronger. And the reason that many varies is because many means many things. We don't know.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, of course. Sorry, I feel like I'm in a shouting mood. I woke up on top of the world today. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't know why, but probably because I'm probably slap happy. I'm staying up. All right, so what is this sentence and this second sentence I just read? What category would this fall into?
I mean, I would say it's another opinion of others.
Ah, many environmental, that's not us, that's an opinion of others. It's simpler than we're making it. Perfect, okay. This worry is unfounded, however. Much of the carbon dioxide now released into the atmosphere eventually ends up in the ocean anyway, where it does not cause environmental disturbances as destructive as global warming. All right, so one of the most common structures on the LSAT is to give us an opinion of others. Here, ironically, we have two, but normally it'll give us like an opinion of others. We will reject that study, that opinion, that suggestion, that strategy, and then we offer support for our conclusion. This is the most common structure on the LSAT. So here, Jomi, what would you highlight as the conclusion?
It was pretty straightforward because this worry is unfounded.
Yes, this is perfect. That's all I wanted you to say.
Yeah.
This worry is unfounded. That is the conclusion, right? That sentence alone. So if we can find that quickly, we can fill this in really quickly though. What is this worry referring to?
The environmentalists' worry.
Yes, many worry that this strategy would simply worrying that this strategy would simply exchange one form of pollution for an equally destructive form is unfounded. And we know that because here we could put, instead of however, we could put the word because, and this is our support for why that worry is unfounded.
Yep.
Now I look like a bunch of chicken scratch up here, but hopefully it was easy to follow while I was drawing at least. And I know you all got this question correct, but I just want to really work on breaking down arguments so that when we get into harder questions, especially strengthen and weaken and reasoning questions, we know what the relationship is between each kind of statement to the conclusion, so we don't get trapped in those trapped answers. So that's why we're spending so much time talking about what seems like basic information, but this is what makes the difference for people, especially when we're trying to get faster. So we're spending 30 seconds less on a question because we can eliminate a wrong answer choice faster. Were there any tempting wrong answers here? Everyone thought it was pretty easy?
No.
Trish, you thought it was easy? It's okay. You can say no or you can say yes.
No, but not easy, but got it right. And the breaking down for me is something that I feel like the other classes didn't really do. You know what I mean? They go over questions, but don't really break it down.
Oh yeah, that's why.
How do we get?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
What's that?
I didn't hear what you said.
How can we get the video so that we can, if we wanted to go over it again?
I'm recording it, so I can send you the YouTube link. It'll be unlisted, but I'll send it to you the direct link. Would anybody else like the link of this? Okay. I'll send that.
I mean, I knew you recorded them. I just didn't know where they went after that. So I would like to have a
copy. Yeah, if you ever want them, let me know. Sometimes, depending on how I feel the class, but like this is something that people would really like to rewatch, I'm more likely to put it on quicker. This one I feel like is something that's easier to rewatch. For some of them, when we're debating so much, I think I get nervous about sending ones out that we're debating a lot because I don't want people to get confused. But this one I think is a really good one. or people that came to the class, I think it's easier to send links out that way to people that actually came because they know what the debate was.
Right.
Yeah, I will send this to you. Oh yeah, every time you watch one of my videos, it counts towards my minutes. I have to get to my 1,000 hours in 365 days to be a legit YouTuber, according to my 5-year-old friend. Said you're
We'll
not
put them on loop.
I know, yeah. So yeah, whenever you're like working, just let my videos play on loop in the background without sound.
Okay.
Help
Yeah, I
a,
can do it.
help a YouTuber out. Okay, so was this class helpful for everybody? It sounds like Trish, maybe like an LSAT basics part 2 would be really helpful for you. I think everybody can learn something from some of this stuff, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, it's the foundation. It's kind of like the foundation. So, you know what I mean?
And
I
once
feel
you
like.
learn, a lot of stuff coming back to the foundations is so important because you see it differently because of all the other information that you've learned. And you're like, oh, I now see why this is actually so important. Like these words, why does some
Right.
matter? Why does many matter? Why does most matter? Why do concessions matter? Opinion, like it's not, yeah, I think when we learn it the first time, we think, oh, well, this is just basic, like it's common knowledge, like, no, like of course it's dumb, but then you realize, no, it's nitty gritty and it's important.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna send a link in the chat to review this class. This is just to me, so it's like doesn't go anywhere, but I appreciate feedback. Like, what did you like? What didn't you like? What would you like to learn more about? Just that helps me become a better teacher, especially as I'm preparing for the boot camp. Like, I want to know like what I really want feedback